that saying of, if you find something that you love, you'll never work a day in your life, I think is the biggest load of horseshit I've ever heard. It's if you find something that you love, you'll be willing to work those hours that it's going to take.
Welcome to XPhys Biz with me, Aaron King, a podcast for exercise physiologists and health professionals wanting to grow and scale in business. How does it feel being a guest instead of a host?
I'm always excited for it because I guess I tend to speak in my room, which I'm in at the moment, all by myself. I do have guests on my show as well, but I think I do more single episodes than I do guests, so I do like talking with someone else there, and so yeah, it's nice being on the other end of it than being asked the questions rather than asking them in the first place.
Yeah, sure. So I wanted to get you on because there's a few things about your story that are going to be quite different. You're treading a slightly different path to many EPs that are out there, so I thought it was really important to share your story. So Adam, there's a few questions that I wanted to get out of the way and get started. So what is next for you? And might as well start with what you got coming up on the horizon, and then we might work backwards. What do you reckon?
Absolutely. Yeah, I guess I've only just recently announced, my next stage in my career path. And so I guess for the last 4 or 5 years, I've been building the brand who is the no breakfast guy. And he's kind of disappearing from the face now. And I guess I'm moving into a more balanced approach, and that word balance being a very poignant word because I guess I'm coining myself again as the balance guy, and I guess I'm moving into the branding, and I guess what my company is going to be called is Balanced by Adam. And so that's where my next stage is moving on to, having been in this industry for almost 20 years now. I know we jokingly said the other day when you called me the OG from there, I was like, that means I must be getting old, and maybe I'm one of the guys who's over the hill now. But I've been in this industry for a while now, but I've seen a few iterations, I guess, where my career has started to where it is now. It looks very different.
Yeah, and OG is original gangster, pioneer, trendsetter, something like that. It is definitely not old guy. Let's just get that clear. So obviously you started off doing what I guess traditional exercise physiology is, and then you're going down a different path. And I thought that was important to show a lot of other exercise physiologists out there and general health professionals that there's more than one way to approach your profession and what you learn along the way.
When I first came into the industry, I guess EPs were far less known. I guess even today, people sit there and kind of like, what's an exercise physiologist? What do you exactly do? But it's far more, known and accepted these days what exercise physiologists are and what, I guess, part we play in that allied health circle of, people, seeing physios, osteos, OTs, whatever that, I guess, cycle might be. But back when I originally started and I did a master's degree, as most exercise physiologists did, my research project was done at a hospital, and it was really only the hospital that you saw exercise physiologists playing a role, from the inpatient kind of role with helping them get back from, be it a hip replacement or a multi-trauma type car accident or workplace accident. And that's where I did my research project, helping those people return to, I guess, the more general public kind of setting. And it's kind of what set off my business, because at the end of it, I was just hoping to step myself straight into a role in the hospital underneath the supervisor that I was doing my research project with. At the end of it, he's like, mate, we still don't have enough of a demand to be able to put you on as a full-time role. We could probably put you on as maybe a 0.5. And at that point in time, I was like, no, I need a full-time role. I don't want to be doing 0.5. And so I said to him, well, what I've been doing here seems like a bit of a role that I could kind of create myself. Do you reckon it would work in the private sector? And at that time, again, there weren't too many private clinics that EPs were kind of running at the time. He goes, mate, to be honest, if you started up something, I'd be sending all my patients to you once they kind of left the inpatient setting. And he said, go and do it, and I'll be certainly sending. And I was like, great, that seems like a good place to start if I've already got a hospital who's going to be sending me all their patients. And so that's what I did, and that's kind of where the business started and evolved from there.
Yeah, it's really important. A couple of things that you said there is, you're starting off with 0.5, and I looked at the stats of exercise physiologists and where they start, and a lot of them do multiple contract jobs, multiple things, and there's not that many, probably outside of you and I, that are just full EP clinics and running EP first, I guess, as a service. Like I started off my career, I guess, while I was going to uni as a personal trainer in a gym. And I'll be honest, I'm even surprised that I got the job because I didn't get a very complimentary reference to begin with. But they liked me and I started off there. So I started learning a little bit about the industry and got made redundant a couple of times once I graduated, got made redundant in one of the only secure EP roles that I was running at the time. And I thought, well, I can't kind of get an EP job that I really want, so I might as well just start my own. And it snowballed from there, and number of years later, it's 2013 or thereabouts, that I started Fit Clinic myself, and it's probably been the last 5 years that I feel like it was the real crux of what I'm doing in business, because I started renting out of a commercial space in a gym, and it wasn't my own stuff, and I didn't control everything at the time. So it's really the big risk, but totally worthwhile over the last 5 years. So I thought, well, I'll do it myself instead of relying on jumping around to different roles.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I was the same. My clinic was always run out of a commercial gym. And so I was always, I guess, beholden to an overriding facility telling me what I can and can't do. And that has its perks because it was probably it is one of the largest multidisciplinary type sporting facilities in the Southern Hemisphere. It's huge. And if anyone's been in Melbourne Sports and Aquatic Centre, which is on the Albert Park Lake where the Formula One races are around, it's a massive facility. And so I can't remember the exact numbers, but MSAC would quote that they had, 2 million people walk through the doors every single year kind of thing. Whether that's right or not, it was a lot of people that would go through that door. And so I was very prominent within that, and I had a lot of foot traffic going past there. So that was a very big plus of mine, not to mention that there was a lot of high-end athletes and very healthy, fit people going through there that may have had injuries or things that were holding them back, and that's what my business was pretty much solely on. I was almost exclusively in musculoskeletal rehab as an exercise physiologist, and so I was just front and center, and it was me who was the only one there and my business. And so that was definitely an upside. But the downside was that I had to kind of do and be told what I can and can't do by the overriding facility. And as a net, it worked out as a positive for me because I was in business there for 14 years kind of thing. So I'm not going to say that it was all bad. There were certainly some downsides to it, but it was mostly positives for me.
Yeah, I think even in the last episode as well, I spoke about some challenges starting out as an EP in business or just business in general. I thought it's pretty important to go, well, what are the positives? Like, why would someone start in business considering all the challenges and the roller coaster of personal and professional challenges?
Yeah, I think you've got to be as self-aware as you possibly can. I think that's a really good trait to have. And if you're someone that likes to lead, you're someone that likes to create your own destiny, if that's your kind of personality trait, then I think you being an employee to someone or being underneath someone is probably never going to be something that's going to suit you long term. It might be something that you need to do to kind of get your feet wet and get the understanding of the industry and, get some skill sets behind that you can then take off and start running your business. But if you are someone that really just likes the certainty of, well, I just have to turn up, do my hours, and I can go home and I don't have to worry about the ins and outs of running a business, then be self-aware and you can still have a really great career in doing that. You don't have to run a business. And I think so many, especially these days, like being an entrepreneur has kind of become cool, for lack of a better word. And so I think everyone's like, well, I should start my own business. And I'm like, do you want to though? Like, is that something that you really want to do? Like, understand that there's a lot behind the scenes that doesn't get shared on social media and things. People sit there and go, oh, I'm on the beach and I'm enjoying these things and running a business is the easiest thing in the world. No, it's not. It's a very difficult thing, but it can also be a very rewarding thing if you get it right. And so just be self-aware. I think if you can have that self-awareness, it can dictate where you might point your energy and efforts.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the business allowing some level of flexibility a number of years later has probably been one of the biggest benefits to me, where, got 3 kids, you've got a couple of kids yourself, being able to modify your day, build a bit of legacy, like delaying gratification at the end of the day as well. So you're sort of taking that long-term approach, focusing on the roller coaster of the short term for the long-term legacy building, because at the end of the day, where I am now, I don't really have a plan B. So plan A just is going to have to work.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So what have been the biggest things that you think have contributed to your success? Like, why do you think you're successful?
First and foremost, I'd say networking. I always love I can't remember what the podcast, it's How I Built That, I think it's called. And he always asks the question at the end, how much do you attribute the success you've seen to luck and how much of it has been hard work? And I was very lucky to have landed the research project that I kind of did in my final year with the supervisor that I had. And Chris Burns, I always give a shout out to as often as I possibly can, because if we're going to talk about OGs, he is an OG of exercise physiology. He's been around for a very long time, and anyone who knows anything about exercise physiology and physiologists knows who Chris Byrne is, because, I mean, he's an incredible asset to this industry and kind of what he's done, what he's created. And for me to have him as a mentor and someone who I bounced off for many years in the very early years of me, not only going through, obviously, the research project, but then obviously moving on to running my business. And so he, as a wealth of knowledge that I could bounce off and ask anything of any time, even though he's one of the most incredibly busy people I've ever come across. He was always willing to give me his time when he could to answer any questions I had. But as well as he was just a network of, mate, I'm looking to tap into some physios that, can potentially refer to me. Do you have anyone? Mate, I've got 14 numbers I can give you. Here you go. And what about surgeons? Could I kind of maybe get in on a couple of surgeries and kind of maybe start talking to them? Yep, no, I've got this doctor, I've got this doctor. And so that networking, I think, is incredibly powerful. And so if I could say to anyone starting out or is in business already and like trying to expand their business or try and look for places to get more business from, just start networking, like start cold calling, going into people that you might admire or you consider is a mentor to yourself. Just ask them, and just try and open that network as vast as you possibly can.
Yeah, absolutely. You obviously mentioned two things there, networking and mentorship. Chris Byrne was both of those to you at one point by the sounds of it. They've been really important factors in what I've been building as well. Each of my team members, they're not through the traditional hiring process. They've all been network and they all are network. So that's been a major thing. And that's how I started off in this career, branching out on my own, was I just knocked on the door and networked and found the right spot that would give me a room and went from there. So I was willing to knock on the doors and, you're not going to connect with everyone, but you're going to connect with enough people that become your people.
And I mean, everyone that I ever hired as an employee of mine was a student of mine. So I was because I was so lucky to have great mentors and where I did a lot of my student placements, I wanted to try and return that favor as much as I possibly could. And so when universities would reach out and say, hey, Adam, we've got students, do you mind taking on some students? I'd be like, send as many as you want to. I'm more than happy to help out wherever I can. And so a lot of those students that then shone through and wanted to do more, wanted to put in that extra step, I then saw as though, well, they've become familiar with my business. My clients now know them. They may have done 150 hours. Some of them did, 200 plus hours as students at my clinic. So my clients already knew them and I knew them and how they worked and how they operated and kind of the level of energy they're going to bring to the role. And so I would then at the end of that year, most years, I'd then offer up an employment to, the top student that I saw. And so again, if you're someone who's starting out, just go start knocking on people's doors and offer yourself up for free. Like I know people sit there and like, you value your time. Yes, but you need to earn that value. And so I think getting out there and, putting your hand up and say, I'll work for free. I'll clean your toilets. I'll, whatever I can do to get into that clinic or whatever you can do to, open up that door. How are you going to open that door? Well, I think getting yourself in there and just offering your services as much as you possibly can. More often than not, that's going to end in a positive for you, but go into that relationship wanting to offer that help, not, well, if I do that, I'm definitely going to get a role. Don't expect something in return. Just do it because it's going to be a learning curve for you. You might get some mentorship out of that person. You might learn how to run a business. You might get all those things that you're trying to get from it. Try and just give as much as you can. And more often than not, you're going to get something in return for it.
Yeah, well, the most two recent people that are with us and our team both came from their student placements as well. And that's probably the biggest thing for businesses to take on students, because it is it is work for the business. It's extra work and support that you need to provide. But the chances are that if there's a number of good ones, you can put them on your list of they're the first people that you call when something comes up. And we've done that with the last 2 people that we've taken on board here. So it's definitely a step in the right direction. You can always tell which ones are really going to be really good EPs quite early on, and the ones that are maybe so far in their degree that they're still not sure that they want to be that or do that. And I think you can tell pretty much straight away.
Yeah, I mean, I reckon I could always tell from day one who's gonna last as an EP and who's not, because I think as an exercise physiologist, you really need to kind of be applying a lot of the things that you learn rather than just being complete book smarts. And I said this to almost every single one of my students that come in. I said, everything that you've probably learned, you probably know far more detail in that than I will. You're going to probably come to me and say, oh, shouldn't you be maybe using this particular fitness test or maybe this particular protocol? And I'm going to go, never heard of it in my life. Maybe, I don't know. But in the real world, a lot of those fitness tests and things like that, just I personally didn't find applicable for the kind of general public that I was seeing on a day-to-day basis. And yes, you might need to have them as a source for, a work cover claim or a TAC claim because they need, specific parameters that they're working with. But at the end of the day, more often than not, that person's coming to a goal to move better or get stronger. And that's not going to come from just knowing the ins and outs of books. You're going to have to apply them in a more broader sense than just as the textbooks run. And so I would always see that inside a student. If they were really, 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 really book smart, but had no idea how to apply that or actually talk to the client in a way that they understood, it was never going to go anywhere for them. And, I'd obviously still try and help them as much as I could as a student, but it would be a thank you for your time and I wish you well. Whereas those other people that sometimes weren't the smartest kind of book smart people coming through, but gee, they had the gift of the gab and they knew how to talk to people and they could hold a conversation and they could really apply what knowledge they did know in a practical sense that helped people actually achieve their goals. They're the kind of people I looked for as often as I could.
Yeah, absolutely. Hire on attitude and train on skill is one of the mottos that we work with here. I have no idea what anyone got in their degree. I don't know if they got a P, C, D. I have no idea because I looked at the person, the personality and their attitude and what their work ethic was and the type of person that they were and hired them based on that because you can always pick up the skills along the way.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. So what's the one piece of advice if EPs are wanting to start in business, what would you give them? Sort of what do you wish you knew when you started out?
I guess I'm going to say I'm a bit probably closed-minded in a way with regards to that, how to answer that question, just purely because while, don't get me wrong, business has been a struggle. I've had my down times and I've had my up times. I was very lucky again. I think I just came into it at a very good time, as well as the network that I developed behind the scenes, because again, I hit the ground running with clients knocking at my door. Like most times, and so the 2-part answer to that question is that understand that it's most likely going to be much slower and much more difficult than you believe it will be in the very beginning, and building those relationships and getting that client base and those kinds of fundamentals that you're going to need is a difficult thing. And so I say that I was a bit closed-minded to that. It was still much more difficult to build a business than I ever anticipated it to be. So that's the overriding thing I want to say to people kind of listening to that. But I was kind of lucky in the fact that I still had a lot of business coming through the door from the outset, but it was still much more difficult than I thought it would be. And so, yeah, going into anything with regards to running a business, it's going to require much more work than you ever think it will. And if you think that, what's that saying?
It's going to cost twice as much
find it
as well.
Well, yes, that as well. That saying of, if you find something that you love, you'll never work a day in your life, I think is the biggest load of horseshit I've ever heard. It's if you find something that you love, you'll be willing to work those hours that it's going to take to create obviously the life that you want. And so I love what I do, but it's an absolute grind, but I'm willing to put in that grind because I love what I do. And so if it's something that you really love and it's an area that you love, then dive in, because, and especially if you're young, like I say, if I was now, I'm about to turn 40 this year, would I want to start a brand new business right now? Probably not, because I don't think I've got the passion, the drive to go right back to the beginning, because I've got so many other things going on in my life, and I've got bills to pay, I've got family commitments and all those kinds of things. But if you're coming out of uni and, it's a thought that you might want to start a business sometime, I say start it when you're 24 years of age, because you have zero debt, zero responsibilities. I say go all in, because if it all fails, you've still got your degree to fall back onto, and you go and work for someone. So I say just dive in heavy at the start and just, go, for lack of a better word, and I'm sorry if this isn't the kind of language you like hearing, but go balls to the wall. Just put everything out there, just give it a go, because as I said, if it all fails, what's the worst that could happen? You go and work for someone else. So that's where I'd say. Yeah,
look, I was trying to keep my swearing to a minimum on this podcast, but normally it's not the case. So you say whatever you say, that's fine. I'm sure I can figure out how to beep out stuff later. I don't know. If you could pick the wisdom of someone dead or alive, who would it be and why? I reckon I might know your answer. It might be the same person that we discussed on your podcast.
I'm trying to think of who it was. I saw when obviously we were talking in the background before setting this up. I saw that question, and I didn't want to put too much thought into it, because I wanted to kind of be as spontaneous to that question as I possibly can. Maybe because today I might think of this particular name, and another day it might be a different particular name. But two people come to mind. One is Bruce Lee. I have him tattooed on my body just because of what I believe he represents, in that, hard work can get you anything in life. And I'd love to just sit down with him and be able to kind of pick his brain about how he went about his processes in life. But today, I guess someone else that kind of comes to mind, just because he's so much more in the media these days, and I'm listening to a podcast at the moment, they were talking about him, is Elon Musk. I think he's an incredibly strange but unique individual that I think would have an insight into the world of business and things that I think most of us regular human beings don't kind of see. And so I think just sitting at a table with him for even 15, 20 minutes, I think it'd be an interesting conversation to have.
Interesting would definitely be one thing that would come up. Would you ask him about Twitter?
Yeah, well, I mean, that's all falling through now. And is he going to be sued? Is he going to be forced to have it or not? I don't know. But I think it's an interesting landscape that he's running in these days. And I mean, a world that I think us mere mortals will have zero ever idea of how it is to be in that kind of echelon of life.
So where can people find you online?
That's probably a rapidly changing thing as well, just because of this new venture I'm moving on to. And I know I just said before that I wouldn't want to go and start a new business, and this kind of is a brand new business, but kind of I'm working off the back of my networks and kind of online scope as it is. But as it stands at the moment, the best place to find me is thenobreakfastguy.com, as well as truexphys.com, spelt TREWEXPHYS.com. But moving forward, the new website will be balancebyadam.com.au. I don't know if it's going to be a .com.au, but it'll be Balance by Adam moving forward. So we'll see how that all moves.
Yeah, awesome. We'll obviously post that up, and hopefully it's there when this episode's released. So, to see how it goes. So thanks for jumping on. Great to get your ideas on a few things, obviously the challenges, the positives, where you've been, where you're going, and hopefully it encourages EPs to stick around and work hard and promote EP in general.
Absolutely, man. I mean, I know the fitness industry itself is a difficult industry to be in, and I can't remember the exact number, but I know personal trainers, I think the average time for a personal trainer in the industry is 18 months, maybe 2 years before they're broke and they're going back to doing something different. And I don't know the exact ones with EPs, but I dare say it's probably not too far different. Being a service-related type industry, it's very draining, not only physically, but emotionally and psychologically. And it takes a certain human being to be able to kind of do that long term. And I'm not saying I'm any better than anyone else, but it takes a certain human being. And so you'll realize pretty quickly if you are the type for it, but know that it can be hugely rewarding. And so, I hope people do stick it out and give it a really good crack and understand that the rewards are there for not only you, but the people that you're working with.
Yeah, absolutely. It's definitely very rewarding despite being challenging. So thanks for jumping on, and we'll speak soon.
Most welcome, mate. Appreciate it.